Hello there, Salim Omar here from the Straight Talk About Small Business Success podcast, and welcome to another amazing episode. I've got a special guest for us today. His name is Blaine Oelkers. Blaine, welcome.
Hey, Salim, thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to be here. Hope to add value. I talk to small business owners all day long, so I'm hopeful that I can add a little wisdom. I love your podcast, and I love how you help businesses. And a lot of times you kind of take away some of the worries and the tax stuff and the number stuff so they can kind of do what they do best. So appreciate you and all you do, and happy to be here today.
Awesome. Great. Looking forward to this as well. Now, let's start with you sharing a little bit about your Chief Results Officer. You bring results for people, but give us your backstory.
Yeah. I had a few moments of dawning comprehension, where the light bulb goes off, ping, and you're kind of never the same. And for me, that first one happened when I went to college. I was in college at Purdue University. And maybe like you and the listeners, I've always been a little bit of a seeker of knowledge. And I saw this ad where you could send away for an audio cassette tape. Now, I'm dating myself. Some people might not even know what an audio cassette tape is. So it was the 80s. And you could send away for little audio programs and you played in your Sony Walkman. But I got this little reading, but it was actually done by Earl Nightingale, which he became one of my mentors later on. But it talked about Think Grow Rich. I listened to that. And I bought the book and I read the book. And the big change for me was what I later called YTABA, which is an acronym for what you think about, you bring about. And in that moment in college and reading that book, I realized that my thoughts play the major role in where I end up, and what I think about, I bring about. And so I really focused in on that. I had some success. I actually met my wife at college. We've been married 30 years now, and I had some good business success. But the second thing that defined me was I came home, my degree's in computer science, and I came home from a business trip, a kind of a long business trip. And then my son, he was acting weird. And he was like, giving me the cold shoulder. And I said, Beth, what's wrong with Bo? It's like, is he sick? And she's like, no, he's not sick, but you were gone so long, he kind of forgot who you were. And I was like, whoa, that like hit me emotionally. And I made a clarifying decision. I remembered both my parents worked and I would come home to an empty house. But I said, no matter what, I'm going to become a work from home dad. And so in that moment, I had a job as a software engineer. I started 2 businesses. And a year later, I was able to leave that job. And that was 27 years ago. So now the kids are grown and out of the nest. But for 27 years now, I've been this work from home. Like now it's cool to be a remote worker, but this is before it was cool. People like, what are you doing? What do you mean you're staying home? Get a job. But I ran these businesses from my home. And what happened for me is I had the time to begin to explore my purpose. Like, why am I here? What are my skills? What are my giftings? And it turned out that, I'm here to help people take control of their lives by taking control of themselves. And so I started helping people get results. I had some business owners that started a mastermind group. One is all attorneys, another one's all dentists. And they started these mastermind groups. And I became this person to help them get results, like kind of on a weekly basis. And I was getting so much results with them. They said, you're going to be our Chief Results Officer. And I go, I like that. I've never heard that before. And so I went to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office and I submitted for the registered trademark. The R with a circle gives you a little more power than just the TM, as you probably know. And I got the registered trademark for Chief Results Officer. So now I am America's only Chief Results Officer, basically helping people kind of take control of their lives by taking control of themselves. In 2009, I started a company called Self-Fluence, which is the art and science of influencing yourself. I call it personal implementation. So helping people to get the things that you should be doing, but you're not. And maybe stopping the bad things you're doing, the bad habits that you shouldn't be doing. So I don't know, that was a longer story, but now you got the rest of the story.
Yeah, no, what an incredible story that you became, you started working from home so that you could be there for your family and you made that your thing to be able to do that. And yeah, what an interesting title, Chief Results Officer. And who doesn't want results, right?
Right.
Yeah. So is it possible to get an hour's worth of stuff done in just 30 minutes? Like looking at your material, you talk about that. Is that even possible?
Yes. Great question. So in Self-Fluence, we have a lot of frameworks, but all the frameworks, everything you need is within reach. You're already doing it. and you can master it, right? So everything you need is within reach. You don't need anything else. You're already doing it and you can master it. So this concept of, I call it the 30-minute hour, right? How to get an hour's worth of stuff done in just 30 minutes, right? And so now it is possible. We're going to show you right now, but it's a very powerful framework. And it's so powerful that I have to make sure that it's used for good and not for evil. So let's say that you and I had 30-minute hours in a row. So we got 4 hours worth of stuff done, but in just 2 hours. That leaves us 2 guilt-free hours, and you could do whatever you want. Now, the type A personality, the business owner that's listening right now, they're going to do more work. That's not allowed. That's the evil side. So if you had 2 guilt-free hours where you were not going to work, what would you do? So for me, I would reach out to my kids. I love to do that. I've got one in Denmark right now, but reaching out to the kids. I also like to reach out to my old friends from the college days. So I would do a little of that. I like to get outside and hike. And then I really like to Peloton bike. So I would probably get a ride. And then if I still had time left over, I would probably take a little power nap. I work from home and I like the power naps. What about you? What would you do? 2 guilt-free hours, but you can't use them for work.
Yeah. Well, great question. Yeah. I'm a power nap person. I love those. 30 minutes does wonders. I get 2 mornings when I take a nap. So I'd do that. I'd probably watch something or listen to a podcast is probably what I'd do. Something that's going to help me become better. So I'd probably spend time doing that.
Okay, good. That's good. And so for the listener, I want you to think of some of those things, right? So what are those things that you would do for yourself? And I want you, as you start to have these 30-minute hours, I want you to bring some of that back into your life. Because I studied people in the last few weeks of their life, and they never say, I wish I would have worked more, or I wish my business was bigger. What they all say is they say, I wish I had more memorable moments with the people I love. Memorable moments with the people I love. Now, those people, a lot of times it's family, sometimes it's friends or relatives, but also sometimes it's peers, like other people they worked with, they really liked, or people that were part of their team or their staff, right? So memorable moments with the people you love. Try to pull some of that in there. The only other thing they sometimes mention was, I wish I had more impact with what I learned in my life to help other people. So that's the other. So keep those things in mind as you start to generate more time, kind of revitalize yourself. All right. So let's go back to the 30-minute hour.
Blaine, and great point. And I just want everyone to really reflect on that, because life is going to go away. And we live in a go world, right? And so kind of identifying, if I had 2 hours, what would I do? And becoming mindful of that, becoming aware of that, and becoming deliberate about that. And then, doing that, right? Whatever that may be, a power nap, or listening to a podcast, or going hiking, or calling your kids or loved ones. I think as people, we should bring more of that, because then it becomes mechanical and it becomes about just growing and just moving and going forward without the meaning and without really that enjoyment and fulfillment. So thank you for bringing that reminder to us.
Yeah, a great point. And whether it's 2 hours, 20 minutes, or 2 minutes, right? Yeah, taking those important things, those relationships. Every day, I try to connect with somebody. It could be my kids or a friend, but a lot of times that could just be 2 minutes. A quick text message to an old friend. Hey, just thinking about you today, right? I mean, so yeah, look for that connection. We're really, wired for that. And having that social network, we're going to be a happier person, as we develop, and nurture and pour into our social network. So great point. And being mindful about that is key. All right, back to the 30-minute hour. All right. Now, I mentioned that with Selfluence, it's something you're already doing. So you already know how to do this productivity stuff. You already know how to do it. And there is a day, the most productive day of the year for people. Now, it's a different day. It's not like a certain day, but it's different for everybody. But there is this day that people get 3 to 10 times more stuff done than their ordinary day. 3 to 10 times. Now that's 3x to 10x. You're my numbers guy. We're only looking for 2x. We're just going from 60 down to 30, but they get 3 to 10 times more done than the ordinary day. Do you know what that most productive day of the year is?
Yeah, I do actually. I think I do. It's the time at the day before a vacation, isn't it?
Bingo. Now, most people I talk to don't get that, but I want everyone to think about the day before vacation. When you start thinking 30-minute hour, think day before vacation. Think about your day before vacation. Now minus the stress and a little bit of the chaoticness of that day, but there's something different about that day. And so I studied that day because I realized this is my most productive day too. So I studied people on the day before vacation, and I created a little framework so that you too can have 30-minute hours based on the day before vacation. And so I made a little framework, and the acronym is PDF. Now, PDF is easy for people to remember. It's like email me the PDF or print out the PDF, right? Now, in the tech world, that stands for portable document format. That's not what it is for us. For us, PDF stands for plan, delegate, focus. So when you think 30-minute hour, day before vacation, think plan, delegate, focus. So what happens is on the day before vacation, people plan out that day. Like they do it the night before. I call it next day planning. The night before, typically, they plan out that day and they fill that schedule, right? Sometimes they'll fill it down to the minute, but at least to the hour. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. I got to do that. So that's the first key is if you plan your day, you're going to get a lot more done. And that natural next thing on your schedule kind of pushes you to get the other thing done a little bit faster. On the day before vacation, people wake up typically 30 to 60 minutes earlier. So if you want a 30-minute hour, that first hour, just you wake up 30 minutes earlier, boom, you got that right there. The other thing about the planning is that they have a very clear vision. These are the things I need to get done today, right before I go on vacation. And now you've heard of the 80-20 rule, right?
Yep, totally.
Okay, so the 80-20 rule, it's like says that 20% of what you do produces 80% of your results. And for some reason, on the day before vacation, people actually use that rule. So they start saying, okay, look, I've got to get only the vital things done, and I've got to push away the trivial many. And they really focus on those 20%ers, and they kind of oust the 80 that only produces 20% of the results because they don't have time. So that's the planning side. Then what happens is that in that 80-20, you start to look and say, oh, this is the 80. This is the stuff I need to oust. And you start to delegate. You start to delegate and defer, right? And the little saying I like to say is think who before do. So think who could do this before you go do this. So I get 30-minute hours all the time. I'm thinking, okay, I've got to take this stuff to the post office and drop this off. And then my wife says, hey, I'm going out to run errands. Can I do anything for you? Bingo, 30-minute hour for me because I just delegate all those errands to her. She runs them and they're done, right? So think who before do. Who could do this before you go do this? And there's a lot of things that you can delegate out. And on the day before vacation, because you're short on time, you actually do kind of defer and delegate those things out. The other thing on delegation is you practice something that opens up time in your day for the more important stuff. And I call it kind of a positive procrastination. It is that I look at my schedule of to-dos and I say, what on this list doesn't have to be done today? Like if I only have an hour to work today instead of 8, what are the critical things and what can I defer? What can I push out to tomorrow? And probably 80% of my list, maybe 70, 80% of my list, I push to tomorrow. Now, if I finish my stuff for today, now I have a little open time there, but then I can begin to work on tomorrow's stuff. But pushing that stuff out, opening up the time for the more valuable stuff is key. And a lot of things I push out one day, then another day, then another, it wasn't that important, right? Same thing, day before vacation, kind of that mindset forces you into the productivity. But the last part, this is where I get my most 30-minute hours comes from this focus. The day before vacation, as I studied those people, they had this weird, fierce focus, right? There's no chit chat. They're not chasing shiny objects. All the distractions of the day go away because you're so focused, right? Are you a fan of James Bond movies?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know in 1963, the very first James Bond movie came out? Do you know the name of that movie?
I don't.
Okay. So, you kind of gave the answer there because that very first James Bond movie was Dr. No.
No. Yes,
No.
of course.
And so
Right.
what happens is on the day before vacation, somebody asked me, Blaine, can you do this? Blaine, can you do this? I go, no. You actually turn into Dr. No. And this is an important thing to learn. No needs to be your default response because that's how you're going to gain more time is not making your default response,
Mm.
how can I help? Yes. Your default response needs to be no. And not only will that help you have 30-minute hours, but it's going to help you avoid the 90-minute hour. Now, the 90-minute hour is when someone asks for an hour of your time and it takes 90 minutes, right? Or they ask for 10 minutes of your time and it takes 30. So you want to become Dr. No. Make that your kind of default thing. The other thing about your focus is on the day before vacation, people tend to have a full schedule. They schedule out their day, like we talked about on the planning side, but they also use timers. And so timers can help you. Like if I'm going to do something that I could drift, like check my email, check social media, do internet research, I tell Siri to set a timer, whether it's going to be 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is. But I want that interruption. I want that pattern interrupt from the timer. So do that. You can cut the time right away by using a timer. And then the last part where I personally get my most 30-minute hours is on the day before vacation, people become tasking gurus. And so there's 3 types of tasking: single tasking, multitasking, and batch tasking. So single tasking, this is where I get my most 30-minute hours. Is single tasking is you're working on something that you do the best and you need total focus on it. For example, I write a lot of articles. And so I can get an hour's worth of article writing done in just 30 minutes if I am totally focused on it, meaning my phone is off or in airplane mode. I've got all the screens off on my computer except that one that I'm typing into, and I'm totally focused. Now, you get a little monkey mind in the beginning, but as long just have a piece of scrap paper, write that stuff down and get right back to it. But you can condition your mind and you can have super productivity, an hour's worth of stuff done in 30 minutes with that single-minded focus. But you must remove all distractions, be in a location where people can't find you, but you're going to come to love that time. That's my most favorite time of the day, is that single focused time. Now, the second one, multitasking, gets a bad rap, but it's where you can do 2 things at the same time without sacrificing the quality of either one. So like this great podcast that you have, I can listen to this podcast while I drive my car. So I'm doing 2 things. I'm traveling, but I'm also listening to the podcast, right? So if I had an hour's worth of driving and an hour's worth of podcasting, I just got 2 hours worth of stuff done in 1 hour because I can do them together, right? My Peloton bike, I love to ride that. I have a little insert that turns it into a desk. So it may drip some sweat on it, but I can ride my bike and do different work things at the same time, right? So you look for that, those things you can do together. I love exercise, but I love family time. So I taught the family to play tennis. So if we went out for 30 minutes of tennis, I got 30 minutes of tennis in, 30 minutes of family time in, hours worth of stuff in 30 minutes. So multitasking is a good one. Again, when you can do both things with high quality. So, I can't check my email while I'm doing this podcast. That the mind really, doesn't work well like that. But there are many things you can find the synergy. And the last one is batch tasking. And that's where you batch together things, and that creates efficiency. For on the day before vacation, if you have 3 errands to run, you don't run an errand, come back, run an errand, come back. No, you batch all those errands together. If you batch your phone calls together, your computer work together, and you can even batch your interruptions. For example, let's say you're a business owner, you're going into the office at 9:00. You say, I'm going in here for single focus time from 9 to 11. When I emerge, I'm going to do 20 minutes of ask me anything you were going to interrupt me during those other 2 hours. And now, kind of in an almost office hours manner, you batched all those distractions and all those interruptions into that 20 minutes afterwards, right? And again, you're gonna have that 30-minute hour by kind of compressing the time and even compressing that meeting, there's all those interruptions into that one time. And the overarching thing, so think 30-minute hour, day before vacation mode, PDF, plan, delegate, focus. But the overarching thing that happens is you release your inner perfectionist on the day before vacation. You release your inner perfectionist. Done is better than perfect, and bring some of that back into your regular day. It doesn't need to be perfect. Someone else can do it. Release that inner perfectionist. Maybe give yourself a reward at the end of the day, like you had when you decided to go on vacation. But that's that 30-minute hour framework.
Wow. So powerful. So good. And so concise. I loved what you shared there. And I'm also looking at the time, so we'll finish off in a couple of minutes. But I wanted to have a question from what you shared. Where are some areas that you see people kind of having their inner beliefs that, no, that can't happen, or that that's not going to work for me. But those are the things that are going to have the biggest impact for them in terms of results and productivity. Like, what are a couple of those areas where there's inner limitations or self-beliefs that get in people's ways?
Yeah. I mean, you bring up a great point. I call it head trash. And so we all have a level of head trash up there, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, and life can push on you. Life can beat you down, sometimes emotionally, but sometimes physically, sometimes in your business. And so you have this head trash. And it's important for you to first, like you said, awareness is so key. Right. I often tell people this great quote I heard one time: when you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. Right. So when you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. So when you say, I'm to this or I'm to that, you're starting to, build the neural pathways of that bad thing, that limiting belief. So there's two areas that people can help remove that. So one is you need something right away. You need something that flips the switch on that self-doubt, that negative belief. And then you need kind of a longer term proactive plan to kind of keep the head trash swept out, cleaned out. So the first one is how you flip it. The switch is you use just a very simple phrase, yeah, but. So you, yeah, but yourself. You can also, yeah, but your friends if you'd like. But someone says, I never have enough time for my business. Yeah, but. And you say that and you wait and let your brain answer it. I never have enough time for my business. So whenever you hear the limit, say, yeah, but I control my schedule. Yeah, but I can hire someone. Yeah, but I could delegate more. Yeah, but I could, stop watching that mindless television. Whatever the case may be, your mind will give you the answers. That white table, what you think about, you bring about. But the yeah, but is that interrupt, that switches, right? And so I'll even say that someone will say something to me, I'm just too old to work in that business anymore. Yeah, but, and then let them, now when I say it, I come up with answers too, but I kind of let them give their answers first. So yeah, butting that limiting belief, that negative belief puts the brain on your side instead of the other. Now, if you don't yeah, but it, then your brain is going to kind of pursue that for you. Yeah, let me find the ways you're lazy. Let me find your inadequacies and all that stuff. And you kind of go down a bad path. And then the flip side, the proactive side is, yes, what can you do proactively, right? You need to pour in the positive. I love podcasts, right? Every time you listen to a podcast, you're pouring in the positive. And the solution to pollution is dilution. You got to dilute that stuff out, like the old beaker with the dark liquid, and you pour the clear stuff in. It gets clearer and clearer, clear. You got to pour the stuff in. And a lot of times you got to pour in more hours. Like if you have an hour of negative thoughts and beliefs and victimhood, you need a few hours, 3 or 4 hours of positive stuff to dilute that down. And then the other thing that serves me very well is a mind shower. So people take a physical shower every morning, but I, in the morning, first thing, I take a mind shower and I wash my mind, the head trash, and I kind of get myself set for the day. There's a lot of great apps for that. I use Headspace, which is a meditation app. Calm is a great one. Insight Timer is another great free one. There's all kinds of different apps. Abide is another good one. But anyway, that's how I would try to give some pointers on that head trash.
Yeah, so good. Thank you so much. So many insights that you've shared with us. And we'll probably have to bring you again, Blaine, because there's so much knowledge and information and really good stuff. But how can folks, what's the best way for them to reach out to you? I know you've got like so much, we didn't even get into habits, how to form habits in 21 seconds instead of 21 days. And you've got so many good resources. So give us a little bit of insight there. How can folks reach out and get those?
Yeah. The easiest thing is just go to BlaineTEDx.com. So BlaineTEDx.com. And there is a website where you can opt in. I did a TEDx talk about white table, what you think about, you bring about, and you can opt in and get that. Then we'll be connected. You'll have my email address. I've got articles. I do this thing called Super Results Day, but we'll be connected. And if I can serve you in any way, I'd be happy to do that.
That's awesome. Thank you, Blaine, so much. Really appreciate it. This was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I'll leave you with this. The bad news is time flies. The good news, you're the pilot. So pilot well, my friends.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.